Right, the button is recording. Uh, I am going to talk to you about the opening chapter that I posted to Charity Main yesterday, which I hope you have read, because if you haven't, then this isn't going to make a lot of sense. So, starting at the beginning, I used a chapter heading because I needed a shortcut, which I personally regard as rather lazy. So, putting a place or a time in the chapter heading. We've got four writers writing in our books, and we can't spend that amount of time at the beginning of each chapter reorienting readers to where we are if we're going to write a book in a month. If we were going to write a book in 6 months, absolutely, we would spend that. I would make you, as a developmental editor, I would say, this is a lazy workaround. Go and make sure that you understand where we are by giving us something that hooks us back into that location or hooks us back into those characters. I try in my books to hook us back into the characters, but because we've got so many new writers here who haven't written in this genre, I am taking a shortcut by using the word Wyoming. And why is that lazy? That's lazy because it's a tell. It's a direct tell. And how do you know if something is a tell? If somebody has never been to America, they have no idea what Wyoming means, right? Let's just say we've got somebody who comes from another planet and you say, this is set in Wyoming. Is that a ship? Is it a plane? What's a Wyoming, right? So you can always tell a tell. If an alien couldn't understand based on that word, let's just presuppose they speak English. Don't be a smart aleck. Really, my brain. So we're going to use that for this purpose. And then what have I done? I am bringing readers into a world which we have already got a cover, which is on point for the genre. They already know that they're getting into bugs, so hopefully, we're going to get some pushback on this because we've got a lot of bugs, swarms of bugs in this series. And the blurb also will help them. But I want to make sure that writers know that they are getting in for a bug ride so that they can opt out if they want to. But also, what I want to do is I want to grab them by the throat as fast as I can and pull them into my story. Because even if the cover is on point, and even if the blurb is on point, they have got thousands of choices. And they could look at the look inside and they can decide, not this one. Don't forget, you are competing against television. You're not really competing against other readers. You're competing for their time against their job, their kids, and when they've got downtime, you're competing against HBO and Masterpiece Theatre and wherever else they're going for their entertainment. So you really need to deliver on the goods. So I may or may not start with this opening line, but I thought that it was something that would snag people's brains because they already know this phrase, but I'm going to use it and turn it in a certain way. Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug, but for several thrashing, spitting moments, Alex Steele was both. And we've got that play between, wow, am I the hunter or the hunted? And that's going to play out across the whole book. And I wanted that in my first sentence. In my first sentence, I wanted this sense that you don't know if you are going to be top dog. You could be the hunted. And you're in for that kind of a ride in this book. Our first chapters are action first chapters. And so you'll see this is pretty fast paced all the way through. So we've got this opening grab, which is about him choking to death on a bug. And I really dig into where he is. We've got a barn door, we've got goats, we've got chickens, and they're not just there for no reason. Every single thing that you put in a chapter, Chekhov's gun. If you don't know what Chekhov's gun is, go look it up. But I'm going to use these. I'm going to use the goats and I'm going to use the chickens and I'm going to use them for story purposes. In this case, at this moment, I'm using them so that you understand place. You understand that we're on a farm. We're on a working farm that's got goats and chickens, right? So he tries to tell himself not to panic. He staggers around. He's got sweet, fresh country air. So I'm definitely playing on the country versus city thing there. He doesn't meet his maker. Maker is capitalized. These are people of faith. A lot of our readers are people of faith. They're going to care about that. So you're not going to use anything that would be considered blasphemy. We're very respectful of that line. And so then he is stumbling to the water pump. We've still got a hand-fed water pump. That's going to matter later in our stories, right? And then we have got him inspecting this bug and getting it wrong. He doesn't know what it is he's looking at, but we need to see that bug, so we see the bug through his eyes. And then what do I do? Well, then he decides to take a picture and send it to his kids, because he needs to be relatable. Before I kill him, you need to love him. And how do I make these readers love this character? He loves his kids. He loves his kids and he wants to make them laugh, even though they're going through a tough time. See how little space. We already know that his daughter is a teenager and she's having trouble, and that there's a younger son who's having trouble with maths. All of that will pay off later, but I'm giving you relatability because he loves his kids. And he's a bit of a joker, and we understand a little bit about what their life looks like. Then we find out his wife is pregnant. Now, here's a trope, right, for post-apoc. Giving birth outside of a hospital system and without anybody to help you, absolutely a post-apoc trope. And so he makes a joke and his wife comes out and she calls him on it. And so we've already got the dynamic between the husband and wife. And this is about him being relatable, but I might also be setting her up to be a character later on in the series. So we want to see how she behaves in real time. And then we've got him looking for, we've got this cutesy thing, not too cute, cutesy thing where he makes up middle names for his wife. This is about the depth of their relationship. You don't tell us that they love each other deeply and care about each other. You show us. And you show that with their interactions with each other. And these are people who really like each other and mess about with it a little bit. So he sends the text. That text pays off later, because everything I set up, I want to pay off later. And that text is really important in this chapter. Sends it off to his kids and his wife. Wife tells him off. They're getting ready for breakfast. He goes off to check on the rooster. And we already know, right? We already know once we haven't heard the rooster crow, we know something is very wrong. Something has happened to that rooster. We already know. So set it up. Before we get there, this is really important. I want you to get into the habit of setting things up and then having them pay off. You might set it up and have it pay off chapters later, but everything that you set up has a payoff. In this case, we have a rooster that doesn't crow that he's going to look for. We've got something coming out of the ground. Now, that's the actual real threat that will be the thing that starts coming out of the ground for all over the country, but we don't know that yet. All we do is we get a little glimpse. So the first one was a fake out. The flying bug that flew into his face was a fake out. It doesn't really matter that the audience doesn't know that because it was part of the drama, but now we see the real threat that's starting to come up from underground, and he smashes it immediately. And then he goes looking for the chicken. And just as we thought, the rooster is dead. And the rooster died a valiant death. Da, da, da. So that's me foreshadowing his death, because he's going to die. And I'm already telling the audience at a deep level that somebody is going to die a hero's death. And then what does he do? He lets the animals out and he goes past the goats, and one of the goats doesn't get up. Readers later, whether we tell them or not, will work out that the old favoured goat was already dead. So we're layering in dead animals. And then he's got a blister on his hand. We've got a scientist in our group who worked out what we could do with our bugs. And our bugs are poisonous bugs. And people who, depending on the amount of toxin that they are exposed to, they are going to be either they're going to have something like he has on his hand, or they're going to be covered in boils and poisoned to death. If they meet the swarm, they can be poisoned to death. So this is another bit of foreshadowing where he's got this thing on his hand. But it's something that he has to go and take care of. It's something that he has to go and take care of with his wife. So we can see them. Excuse me, I just burped for you. I'm so sorry. See them in real time, interacting with each other, showing their relationship. Not telling us, showing us. We learn things about what his wife does through the goats. So through the goats, we know that she is handy. She can make soap and cheese and lotion, and they fed baby dogs. Yay! All of these things can pay off later if these characters come back in the book, because we now know things that Jane does. We know them because of the goats. We know about the goats because we were on a farm, and he went out at sunrise to let them out. So you see how all this stuff is layered in, but it's going to pay off later in the book. And it just looks like we're setting the scene, but we're not. We're doing a lot more. Goes into the kitchen, plays with his wife a bit. We learn more about their relationship. They decide to protect the kids against the knowledge that Roberto has died. Again, this is telling us about the family dynamic and how they take care of their kids by showing us in action how they treat them. We don't say they loved their kids and didn't give them bad news until it was absolutely necessary. We had the parents have a conversation. And so we see that in scene. And as much as possible for our genre, we are going to want you to be in scene. So we see things happening in real time on the page. It's going to be a note that you get from me a lot. I saw Micah giving that note to a lot of people. And it will go all the way down to the word level for not telling, but showing. So this is an example of us seeing their relationship in real time and how they feel about their kids. And then he gets the first aid kit out, and I want you to see all the things that I set up here. She is mending nets for one of the peach trees. We already know earlier that he doesn't believe in using pesticides. So we've got some idea that pesticides are in the mix. It will turn out pesticides are a really big deal in our books, and I already know that because it will be a certain kind of pesticide mix that has accelerated this change in the bug's physiology. So all of that's layered in here, and she doesn't use nets. And later on, he's going to use the net as a form of protection, but you see how it's just lying over the back of a chair earlier on. Later, it's going to pay off. She sorts everything out. Very, very specific. Disinfectant, needle, swab, Band-Aid. You're using this to build tension, but you're also getting very, very specific about what it is that she's doing. And then we've got this strange little thing. I could watch you all day, said Alex. Jane wiped his palm with peroxide. That's why I don't have a screen door hung, or a new well dug, or she looked up and smiled right before she pricked the boil with a needle, or a pied-à-terre on the Champs-Élysées. Why have I got that in there? She didn't want Paris, and they both knew it. She'd left that all behind. Now we know something about her background. They'd loved country life, with all its rough edges and sharp smells and day-to-day routines. It was where they wanted to grow their brood, to grow up, learning about real life, not the cocoon of the city. One of the things that we know is that the bugs that we have set loose on the world can't survive in the city very long because there's not enough to eat. So our characters are going to have to retreat to the city. So I've already layered in a character who hates the city because I know that they're going to have to go there. So I'm going to be playing with the love-hate relationship they have with their environment because we want to push people outside their comfort zones and have them do things that they don't want to do. All of this is in chapter 1. All of this is in scene. All of this is shown. None of it is told. Following? Let's still going. We're still going. We've still got loads of way to go. So then we've also got the peroxide, which we're setting up. Oh, I skipped over. We set up a horse with an injured foot. Why did I set up a horse with an injured foot? Because I knew that I wanted later on to be able to make a flamethrower with one of the ingredients. Had to do a little bit of research to see whether or not we could use any of that. But I am using everything that I put into my first chapter to pay off later. So it just looks like it happened to be there and doesn't appear out of nowhere. If at the end, when he wanted to make a flamethrower, suddenly he ran into the horse's barn and it just so happened that there was something in there that was flammable, your readers don't like that at all. That feels like the hand of the writer is giving the character exactly what they need in that moment. And your readers do not like that. What they like is for you to set it up so that it's just part of what happens to be there. Has to be there because the horse has got an infected hoof, right? And now we can turn it into a flamethrower. Sorry, I missed that bit. So they are about to go and wake the kids up, and then there are bugs on the window. And she is scared of bugs. Why? Because she's going to be a character later who has to deal with the bugs, right? We don't actually know that I'm going to write this character. I just wrote this as an opening character for my team, but also so that I could talk to you about what opening chapters look like and all the things that you need in an opening chapter. But I love her already. I already love this family. So good luck, Team Cockroach. I think I might like to write this family. So she hates bugs because we are living in a world of bugs and she's going to have to overcome that fear. She burns her hand on the stove, but actually she's touched the poison that is in his hand, and now she has poison on her, but we're not going to know that until we see them again. So again, setting things up that are going to pay off later in the book. They're flying outside. What do we then do? We send her upstairs to go and rescue the kids. They're in it together. They're a team. They're a married team. She does it. She goes upstairs. He uses what's already on the stove. There's a pan on the stove. By this time, no, not quite yet. He decides that he's going to go out, and then his hands have started swelling up from the poison. This is something that we know from our science. He can't do the things that he needs to do. We don't tell you the bug poison made his hands swell. We show you that he can't open things. He can't get back into the first aid kit. He can't put the peach net that we already set up earlier in the chapter. He can't get it over him. He can't open things easily because of the poison. Show. Already layered in there. Then he throws it out the back door. He slips and the sky is almost obliterated because there are so many bugs now. And he realizes that he's going to need something else. He runs back inside. He uses the net. The bugs are on the stove, and his wife loves her stove. I mean, one day I'm going to have an Argo and I will love my stove. And so he goes to it and that sets the thing on fire. So all of this is save the cat stuff. This is all making it worse and worse and worse. Chase your character up a tree, throw rocks at them. Every single thing he tries to do, throwing water out the back door, putting the thing over his head, getting it set on fire. Everything makes it worse for him. All the things he tries to solve the problem make it worse. And all the things he uses have already been set up earlier in the chapter. So then he does battle with the bugs. Micah wants more bug battle. He's going to get more bug battle because whatever he wants, he gets. And so then he goes back out again. And he knows he's going to the barn. He knows he's going to go and try to make a flamethrower. And as he does, we're getting this sense that this is hopeless. There are thousands of these bugs coming. We already know that he is blown up with poison. And his last thoughts are about his children and his wife. Not them. Please, not them. So now your readers are really worrying about the wife and the kids, and he is super relatable. Right before I kill him, he is super relatable. Why did I make a flamethrower? It's one of the ways that we know from our research that we can get rid of these bugs. It's only one of the ways. The stuff about it going into his mouth is also about, symbolically, it's about the fact that the bugs are going to eat the world to death. Also, super, super late on, probably book 5, we're going to find out that there was a genetically engineered bug that was high in protein that was going to be used as a food source. So I deliberately put it in his mouth so that by the end of the books, we're going to find out that that was something horribly symbolic that set this all in motion. And then I really went backwards and forwards on this, but after he dies, after Alex Steele dies, his phone buzzes in his pocket and his son texts him back and says, best dad in the world. His dad is already dead. Now, I broke the fourth wall to do that, and that's a gamble, but I believe that my readers will be touched by that moment. So I decided to go ahead and break the wall, and nobody called me on it yet. All right, that's 20 minutes. That's very, very long. Shoot me questions, but I wanted to give you an idea of what's in here, how you show, how you layer in Chekhov's gun again and again and again. Things are in here that are going to pay off books later. Things are in here that pay off in the chapter as it's going on. You never want to see the hand of the writer moving the pieces around on the board. Never, ever. So this is just an example of what a first chapter can look like. Shoot me questions.